Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Late Night Brew, where we talk the brews first, then we get around to what we're supposed to after. Joining me once again for the next episode in this series of Tenant-to-Tenant is Joe. Welcome back, buddy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, now, of course, you are probably sick of the drill by this point. What brew
Never.
are you having with me today?
Today, it's actually a very simple root beer A&W, good old classic A&W root beer. It's actually their diet version, but it actually tastes, I will say, of any diet uh, soda I've ever had, it's the closest to the real thing. So it's really good.
Yeah, no, I don't drink pop
Mhm,
very often, and
mhm.
there you go. That's where I'm from. If you
Yeah.
know how the U.S. says, but what I do, that one's actually a quite a good one. So I agree with that. I've got in honor of the recent holiday that passed for the
Mhm.
U.S. and the rest of Harp, the classic lager from. It's it's a good lager. It's a mainstay. I don't know what else to say about other than it's good.
Excellent.
So, on today, we are diving into migration tooling and why it's important and all of that. So, without further ado, Joe, why is the tool selection so important in migrations?
hmm Yeah, when you're doing a tenant-tenant migration, Microsoft has obviously a large number of services that need to be migrated from one tenant to another. And although Microsoft has been, I'll say, slowly releasing certain features across platform, like a mailbox migration move or a OneDrive migration move, they still don't have an answer for a lot of the other types of migration of the services for like SharePoint, Teams, and so forth. And so, of course, because of that, we have to rely on third-party tools to do these types of migrations. So the selection of the tool becomes important because number one, not every tool does everything, right? So you really have to take a look and make sure you understand fully what exactly you need to migrate. So if it's a simple Exchange or SharePoint or OneDrive migration, then yeah, probably 99% of the tools out there can actually do those migrations. But if you get to something like a project online, there's only less than a handful of tools that can migrate project online. So it might even be that you have to run multiple tools in order to migrate all of the services that you need to migrate. It just gets very complex very quickly.
Yeah, and there's always the fun of uh, what if another tool comes out with the feature
Mhm.
that you've been looking for and you went with another one, and it's
Yeah,
that awareness.
yeah, absolutely. Like Power Platform's another one too that one of our partner companies that is actually capable of migrating the Power Platform, and so which is good. So that's another again notch in their tool belt. So it just makes it a little bit more simple. They do all of the core services like Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, but then they also do the Power Platform. So that's a big step up as well. I know another solution they're working on doing similar like the Power Platform as well as like Power BI. So yeah, they're always developing too. So that's the other thing you have to be on the lookout. What a tool might be capable of doing or not be capable of doing today, absolutely could be capable of doing even within a month or two. So as you get closer to when you really have to execute your migration, it's definitely good to keep an eye on the market as far as the toolings are concerned.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and you never know uh, from from far too much experience. I think for
mhm,
both of us,
mhm,
what the actual hands-on tool is like versus what you were sold, right?
mhm.
not to default, or downplay any of that.
Mhm.
However, definitely have had my expectations poorly managed.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, not all tools are created equal. Absolutely. Some are very comprehensive, easy to use. Others extremely complex and very difficult to use. So some require more manual settings, others have more automation. So again, yeah, just part of that selection criteria as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
and actually that's a good lead in with what are we mentioned some already, of
Mhm.
course. What are some other pitfalls of migration that might not be obvious on the outset.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, as far as the pitfalls, most of the tools will actually execute the migration for you, but where some of the tools might fail is more at the vendor level, right? For
Mm.
things like customer support, right? How good is the customer support? Can you pick up a phone and get a hold of somebody, or do you have to do it all through email? Because we all know, right? When you're in a cutover weekend, you don't want to have to rely on email. Just in having to open a ticket and waiting 24 hours and all this stuff when you're in the
I
middle
was
of
gonna
an
say
actual
those
cutover.
SLAs become
Yeah.
really, really
Mhm.
painful.
Yep. Yeah. And the other thing too is a lot of tools offer additional training, right? So they'll actually sell you, hey, do you want X number of hours of gold level support? So that they'll help you set up the tool and help you navigate it and understand it. Others just rely on their KV articles and so forth. So again, as part of the due diligence, you got to think about not just will the tool execute migration from a data perspective, but also what kind of support am I going to get from the vendor when the time comes, not just in setup, but also in execution as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Those are
Mhm.
very good points. And they're great points to end our time on. So, Joe, once again, as
Yeah,
always, buddy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And we will chat on the next episode. Until then,
great.
cheers.
Yeah, see you then.